Welcome back, everyone, to the Chip Lunch podcast, and it is a special podcast today because we've got 3 co-hosts. Is that what we call it?
Yeah. Are we
three.
all
the OG 3?
Are you the host? And then there's
you're the co-host,
myself, and Mum are co-hosts.
Who?
Mum?
Who's Mum?
Well, Mum hasn't been introduced yet.
Yeah, I know, because I was trying to get the right intro, and you're like,
you're
what
the
about
one
my
talking
mum?
about the 3 co-hosts, so I just assumed.
No, I was going to say welcome to the 3 co-hosts. Well, welcome to me. Welcome to Braden. Welcome to Braden and to Ethan. Why are we? Should we announce why we're all on the podcast together?
Go for it.
3.
We're finally not busy.
Ready? 3, 2, 1. It's episode
100.
100. Of the Chip Lunch podcast, and to celebrate episode 100, we decided to get. I was trying to think of what the intro could be, and it's like, you know, those awful sayings like, behind every good man, there's a good woman. Because we were originally thinking about getting Stu on episode 100, but we thought, hang on a second.
There's a better story to tell.
Yes, that's right. Louise Crawshaw, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Can I just say, I am not worthy to be
You are.
number 100, but thank you for inviting me to be number 100.
No, thank you for coming. Thank you for coming on, making time to come on, and you seem very well prepared, very conscientious, as you said, because you brought notes. Was that about? Have you brought notes on us? Or notes on yourself?
Yes, some tips.
I remember when you said this back in 2019, Joel, and that's when I thought,
Well, actually, episode 22.
yeah, oh, that's Sandy.
Oh, wow.
Because Sandy's into everyone and recorded everyone's chip preferences.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yes. I thought about that.
Now, Lou, we should also say why we're here. Because we are bordered by orange and green. If you
So
had
much
a look
orange and so much green.
on the
It's
on
St.
the
Patrick's
YouTube.
Day, that's obviously.
Yes, you chose the green, but you chose an orange cup.
I
Yeah,
did.
Lou. Very, very well done fitting in. But we're here at Miranda Congregational Church because we're having our staff meeting here today. So we thought we'll record here for the special episode 100. It's very celebratory.
Yeah. Orange.
Any thoughts on the decor, Ethan?
For those who are watching online, you'll notice that Eck has a sudden superpower it's called green screen. And funnily enough, green screen, for everybody's information, doesn't just work on green, it can work on orange as well. It's just block colours. And so if he wanted to, he could have like a dragon or like a big, like a field behind us or something along those lines. I don't know if that'll happen, but I think it hopefully will. We're
Wow,
joined by some
the party's
sirens.
gone off. There's sirens.
they're coming for you, Joel.
I don't. Or they've seen Lou's notes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was all. They all.
Well, maybe as we go through the
Joel-incriminating.
podcast, sometimes when we talk about something in particular, Egg puts up the video. You can put it up as the background tonight.
You can put it
today.
in the background.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Braden, you haven't said anything. Why don't you ask Lou the opening question?
Yes. It would be my pleasure. Lou,
Yes.
how do you like your hot chips?
Well, I like my hot chips with with salt and with chicken salt and with gravy.
Ooh.
So, are you saying both salts?
Yeah. Well, see, because what happens
That's
is
salting.
that Stuart likes normal salt and I like chicken salt. And so sometimes I have been known to order a box and I'll say, can you have half of salt on one and half of chicken salt on the other? Wow. And and it comes, so I feel like I'm getting both, and it's really quite very nice. But the gravy is particularly special. I know that you've had people that have said yes to gravy, but there are some special places that I've had gravy on that make it that I don't think they do it anymore because one's Gummy TAFE and I don't think they have a cafeteria at Gummy TAFE anymore.
Oh, don't they?
And I would imagine that they wouldn't. And the other one is Sydney Children's Hospital.
The gravy, the
Fabulous.
chips and gravy at Sydney Children's Hospital goes off. It's really, it's excellent.
Yes, yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah.
That's cool. I don't think we've ever had anyone with a half and a halfer.
Right.
So that's pretty cool for episode 100. Is there a difference between...
Bringing everyone together.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Unified.
Very all about unity. Is there a difference in gravies? Because I don't like gravy.
Yeah,
I
you
think
can
there's
get gravy
massive-
wrong.
Yeah, there's massive differences in
Yeah,
gravy.
heaps.
Like what though?
There's you can get chunky gravy. You can get gravy that's too watery. You can get gravy with mushrooms in it. You can get gravy with. That's all I got. Actually, they're the only options.
That's a lot of gravies though.
Ones that are salty.
Yeah, there's salty
because
gravy.
I particularly like chicken salt with gravy that's really salty on top.
Oh, special delivery
Thank you, Jai.
coming in.
Thank you, Jai. You're amazing.
Thanks, Jai.
At the end of the rainbow, you'll find Fiji.
Is that what the cup says?
That's exactly what it
How good is that?
That's awesome. Cheers.
The cameos keep going.
What teas do we have here anyway? You've got your
That's
Yeti.
coffee.
That's coffee. Special
Yeah.
coffee or just normal coffee?
Just cold brew that I make and leave in a big thing in the fridge. And
Oh,
disperse throughout the week.
there you go. And you had a tea.
Got a Melbourne breakfast that tastes like Fiji.
Melbourne.
Fiji breakfast.
Fiji breakfast.
It's because at the end of the rainbow.
Yep.
And what did you have a tea as well?
I've got instant coffee.
Oh.
But I like instant coffee.
Mm-hmm. I don't have anything.
You gotta get a cup, Joel.
Well, I don't drink hot drinks really.
What a shame.
That's the problem. Yep. Ethan, would you
Oh,
like
I have a question before we ask
Yes.
the other question.
one B?
Do I call you Lou up until you give birth to me? like pre 1998, you're just Lou, and then post 1998, you're mum. Like, is that what are we?
You can do whatever you want,
All right, I'll mum the whole time. We'll stick with that. It'll be easier.
That was such a good question.
You haven't had that before either.
Yes, exactly.
That's very true.
Episode 100.
Episode 100, a whole bunch of new stuff. We're keeping it fresh. Something we do every time is, Mum, how did you become a Christian?
Oh, I thought I was going to ask a question about is there a moment that you eat your chips that's special?
Oh,
Sorry.
we're skipping.
Let's do that. I like that.
Excuse me, Lou. Just before we get on to the main question, is there a particular place or memory you have associated with eating hot chips?
Oh, gee, Joel, I'm so glad you asked that question.
Is that because you wrote it down?
No, it's just something I thought about.
Oh,
and it was
lovely.
actually to do with Ethan.
Oh,
So
cool.
I think that it was Porto's down at Cronulla. Is it South Cronulla, right opposite of
Yep.
Porto's? And Ethan being, I don't know, 18 months or something, sitting on the grass there overlooking the beach, eating a Porto's. Great memories of
That's
that.
lovely.
So, yeah.
That's very
So
wholesome.
this was last week? Or?
Yeah. We just go down to the beach and have a Portos.
That would be pretty cool.
I actually
if
would
you
love
just
to.
did
That would be nice.
Yeah.
Maybe after the podcast, we'll go down to the beach
Yeah,
and
it's
get a
like that
Portos.
thing of like, have you called your mother? Have you
Yeah.
gone to South Cronulla Beach and had hot chips and a Porto with your mother?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I haven't yet.
Mm.
We'll have to make a day of it.
We will.
Be good. So, Mum, how'd you become a Christian?
Is it a funny story?
No, I'm just laughing my way through that
Okay.
that previous moment.
Sorry, let's let Lou actually answer the question.
No, it's not funny. But it's not unfunny either. I became Christian when somebody at a band night talked to me about Jesus. And so the first night, so it was a band night down at Cronulla Anglican Church. It was called The Rock, and it was every year. It was kind of like a mission, beach mission, I guess, but it was in the Elephant House. It was pretty massive. Like there were hundreds of kids that would go down there every January. And so I was invited, heard the gospel one night, and didn't think it was for me. And then I came back the next night, and somebody else told me the gospel, and I decided that it was for me.
Second
What
time's
happened
a charm.
within the 24 hours. But it wasn't like that was the only time that it was probably the only time I'd heard the gospel, I guess. But God had been preparing me for that moment for many years. So I grew up not in a Christian family. My dad was a socialist, I would say. He was born in the 20s. He fought in World War II. He was in the UK. So there was a socialist movement in the UK, maybe against in reaction to Nazism, perhaps. But but he was quite political in that way. He was from a military family, so all of his his father was a professional soldier, fought in the Boer War, World War One, Home Guard. My dad actually grew up in the Queen's Park, so my grandfather was, he looked after, he was a gatekeeper, so that's what they did he retired as a sergeant major, and he was, apparently a great big 6'5" man, my grandfather. Anyway, so that's how my father grew up. And whereas my mother was she was brought up as a Catholic, she was pretty nominal in that she didn't go to church. But what she did do is she went to the Church of Christ from time to time, I understand, at Caringbah. And my memory of going to Sunday school was that I was in a play and I was an elephant. And I remember, I'm assuming it was like Noah's Ark, I guess, is why you'd be
like
an elephant.
Sheep or shepherd.
No,
with the elephant as well.
I remember
It gets left out.
Jesus in the manger with the elephant.
That's right. And I remember putting 20 cents in the plate as it was going around. So I assume I must have been going for a while, because I don't think that they ask somebody who's there just once to be an elephant in a play. That's kind of my thinking. So I must have gone to Sunday school, but my father didn't want my mum to go to church, and so they didn't go to church anymore. And I used to go to Catholic scripture, and I had a very eccentric aunt, Auntie Ali, and she gave me some rosary beads once. And we went to Mass, and I remember asking my mum, we didn't go to Mass, we went to a church. They pointed, that's where they do Mass. They were nominal.
Really?
But they bought me these, pretty pink rosary beads, and they said that, and I said, well, Mum, my friends in Scripture are getting confirmed and having their first Holy Communion, and she said, and I said, well, why aren't I doing that? And she said, well, I want you to make your own decision when the time's right for you. So when my Auntie Ali gave me these rosary beads, I worked out what you do with it, and I was able to, because I'm quite conscientious, I was able to do it within 20 minutes. And so because the rosary beads is a pattern, you say Hail Marys and you say Our Father, and you do that. And I was also told to read the Bible, and that's a good thing. So I found this big, thick children's Bible that we had around the house, and so I read that, because that's what somebody told me, that's what you do. You read the Bible. So I felt like by the time, as a kid in Year 9, and I heard the gospel, God had prepared me for it. And so whilst I feel like it was brand new, it wasn't brand new. God was just kind of, had these lovely points of preparation for me, so that it was, I had some good soil in which that message landed.
To plant the seed.
Yes.
So that moment at the Rock, were you just like, I am a Christian? Or you're like, oh, now I'm starting to get this?
No, I am a Christian.
That's pretty cool.
Yep.
And like you said, because you've been prepared for that. Okay. Yep. And what do you think changed from that moment?
Yeah, my certainly in terms of, I wasn't a naughty kid. I was a good kid, and I was, okay at school, and I certainly didn't rebel. And but what I was doing is I was just living a normal, kid's life. I went to Uluru High School, and we, it wasn't terribly fancy, but so I think my language certainly changed. I was a bit of a swear bear, and I think what I did...
That's totally me too, by the way.
So, that's a massive memory. And my passion changed. Like, I remember actually not really having any passion, and just living life, but as a teenager. But I became immersed in church all of a sudden, and I remember I used to ride my bike to school, and I'd be singing. I had one song that I knew because I'd just become a Christian, and it was "This Is the Day." Like, I'm not going to sing it, but this is the day. And I would sing that on my way from, I lived on Boroney Bay Road down to Uluru High School, and I'd sing that song, and then I'd started to be involved in youth group and lead Sunday school, and as time went by, I learned to play guitar because that's just what you do. So I had like 4
This
chords.
is a new skill that I didn't know you had.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And because it was, I started going to a small church, it was Cronulla Baptist, because they're the girls that prayed with me. That was their church, and so I learnt to play guitar, and I played guitar up the front of church. Actually, when Stuart first met me, I was playing guitar at the front of church. Well, when he came back to visit me, and I led. I don't know, I put my hand up to run youth nights with Christian surfers that came to our church, and actually one night, I think I was all of 17 by then, maybe in year 11, like equivalent of year 11, because I didn't do year 11. I ran a band night, and for the Shire at the YMCA, and as you do as a 17-year-old, I think it was evangelistic night, and I remember there was posters around the Shire, like, I don't know, probably not many, but like, cool. I don't think I had access to printing. But I became passionate about that, and that's what I did.
Awesome.
Were you looking for something to be passionate about, though?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No, I don't think so. I think it was God was...
Here's something to be passionate about.
Yeah, okay. And I saw that it was something that was really important, and that's what I, put my efforts into.
Do you remember what brought you to being at Cronulla, being at the Rock?
That's
like, did someone
really
invite you, or just friends going along?
I think it was a girlfriend that I met that I had when I was in a kindergarten.
Oh,
I think her name was Avril Mealy, and we haven't seen each other for a long time. I have no idea if you're listening, Avril, reach out. So she was a friend of mine from Burrony Bay Primary School, and she invited me.
So you went to Burrony Bay too?
I did.
As did I. As did Sidey, I think,
Yes.
and someone else. But it's the place to go.
Illustrious alumni.
It is. It is. Did you ever get called the Burrony Bay Bumsuckers? Okay.
What?
That's what we got called. That's what at like athletics carnivals and stuff, like at district athletics carnivals. That's what we got
Maybe
called.
that was just you.
Because Ethan's. That really affected Ethan. That joke. It wasn't a joke. It was just the truth.
Oh my goodness gracious me!
It's just so primary school. Hey,
It was really wholesome until then.
it's still awesome.
I said wholesome.
Oh, wholesome. I thought you said it was awesome until Joel said that. Sorry. So you just said that you didn't do year 11 though.
Yeah.
So did you finish in year 10?
Yeah.
Oh, what was the thoughts behind that?
Yeah. So Mum and Dad were Dad was a tradesperson. He worked at Qantas. He was a ground engineer. My mum was a bookkeeper. So there was certainly no aspiration for us, for my brother and I. So my brother, he became a tradesperson as well. So he left year 10. He's 2 years older than me. He became a ground engineer as well. And so it was thought that that's what I would do as well. So in year 10, I started looking for a job myself. Worked in bank. I applied for jobs in the bank, got a job at the State Bank, and at Cronulla. And so I remember finishing Woolooware High. I think I was, out of how many kids are in a year? 100, 200?
Yeah.
Like I was, number 8 in English. Like the teachers were like, "Why are you leaving school?" And but it wasn't even a thought that I would continue.
Okay.
Anyway, so I decided that I wanted to be an accountant. Not that there's anything wrong with that. They are really useful for us. Because I was so good at maths. Anyway, so I must have thought it was a very respectable occupation, and that's what I should do. So
it is a respected occupation.
it is.
I think, yep.
It is very respectable. So I decided that, and maybe it could be to do with the fact that I was working in the bank, but like I was a 15-year-old girl working in the bank, and then I was quickly promoted to be a teller, and so it was quite a lot of responsibility to be a 15-year-old teller. But anyway, so I decided that I would also want to be an accountant, and so Mum and I went off to Gardner TAFE and met with a careers counsellor, and the lady explained that, you know, by the time you finish, you know, a Cert 3 in accounting or something, and you get a particular qualification, that qualification will mean that you can then do a diploma in accounting. So that'll take 2 years at night time. Or you could do your HSC at night time, and then you'll have same opportunity to then go and do a diploma of accounting after that. So Mum and I thought, I think may as well do my HSC. So whilst I didn't do my HSC at Woolooware High, I did my HSC at Gummy TAFE at exactly the same time as my cohort was doing it. So I finished in 88 at Gummy TAFE, which was what everybody else was doing, was what my year group was doing if I had stayed at Woolooware. It meant that I did my HSC 5 nights a week, 4 hours a night. So I'd work at the State Bank.
I was going to say, you're working at the same time.
Yeah. So I'd walk to work from, I'd walk to work and from home down to Cronulla, and then, I don't know, either by then I'd met Stuart, and Stuart would drive me to work, to TAFE. Oh, no, sorry, my dad would drive me to TAFE, and that's when I would have my hot chips between work and going into doing English, maths, economics, modern history, ancient history, whatever it was that I was doing. And,
wow,
that's what I did.
And was that easy, hard? Part of me feels like you just go, oh, that was super easy. It was so good. Like, but it doesn't.
It wasn't that bright.
Yeah.
My level of brightness is that I have to push. I have to work really hard. So it doesn't come naturally to me. So I think that I'm not. I think when you're young, I think there's probably. Well, actually, probably not, because some people are young and they don't have much. They don't. Anyway, yes, it was hard. Yeah, it was hard because then I probably didn't do as well as what I would have if I was at Woolooware High, because of the fact that I would have had a lot more time, a lot more support, you know, to do actually, you know, that amount of work. Because what they ended up actually doing was called the matriculation, and it was, when I started, it was over 2 years, but then in my second year, they decided, oh, you know what, let's do it in 1 year. So basically, I ended up repeating, like it was the government doing it, they're repeating the work that I had just done for 2 months or 3 months or whatever it was. And then I didn't start year 12 work until April. Whereas normally you're basically finishing year 12 work in April. Yeah. And so it was, there was a whole lot of disadvantage in doing it that way. But you know, it was the opportunity that I had and I embraced it, and I
was going to say, what do you think you learnt from that? Like, it was definitely probably hard. What do you think you learnt, though, from doing it differently to how, like, I think all three of us did it through school? Yeah.
Connecting with older people and also, you know, the importance of persevering and the value of that. I remember my first, I think it was the English class, and you couldn't sit down. There was just, you know, 50 people in the room, and they said, don't worry, most of these people will leave. And most of these people did leave. And so by the end of it, I don't know, maybe there was 20 people who was, even less than that, who finished by the end of the 2 years. And so, yeah, it was the importance of perseverance, hard work. I think, you know, we've said conscientious a few times. I think there's, you know, I've got a natural kind of discipline. And I think, so I kind of reflected on it. Actually, I was thinking about it's probably as I think about my grandfather and his military background. I do wonder whether or not there's a degree of discipline that's actually just happened to be ingrained in my DNA as well, so that like I can kind of get through those kind of challenging kind of times.
Do you find? Oh, sorry, you go, bro.
I was just thinking, because you've mentioned how excited you were as a young Christian. And obviously then you're working during the day, you've got HSE at night. Yeah. Like, how was the weekends then? It would have been very easy to just be like, you know what, this is my time. I'm not really going to do anything. Like, how was church when you are working full-time and doing HSE at night? Yeah.
So it was in... so that was kind of the times when I was running the band nights and that kind of thing.
So just little stuff on the side.
Yeah, I think I had the balance right. But I met Stuart at the end of year 11, my equivalent of year 11, and so that space of equivalent of year 12, I was going to visiting his church, and he was coming to my church, and I think that I don't think it changed very much.
So I've heard the name Stuart a few times. Who's Stuart?
Who is that? Actually, can I ask you?
That's a really good question.
To go with that question, because you've mentioned band nights a couple of times, and I'm pretty certain that you and Stu met at a band night. Is that right? Okay, so
can I also just add? I don't think I've ever heard this story from your perspective.
Yes, that's why I wanted to ask this question. So maybe tell us why you wanted to organise band nights first, and then tell us about that fateful day.
In the 80s, there was an amazing group of Christian rock bands, and so they were there was a number of them, and it was all around proclaiming the gospel, but it was just they would just play super great music, and it would be great fun to dance to.
It was a good scene.
There was a scene, and so. Going to youth group, we went. There was one particular band called Priority Paid, and the band was playing at Paddington Town Hall, I think, and so we went to. There was a youth group of 6 of us or 7 of us, and my youth group leader, who actually his name's David, and he goes to our Cronulla. Church. So David, he drove us to this venue, and I was sitting there, and Stuart happened to be there. Stuart's version is that he walked in and he saw he saw me, and there was like a light on me.
Like a spotlight.
My story is I was sitting there and I happened to see him later on the dance floor, dancing in a really, 80s kind of way, as we all did.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, I'm imagining him with like the flock of seagulls hair.
Yes.
Oh, no, because he's got curly hair. So it's this kind of curly, kind of wafty thing at the top. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very epic.
So you noticed him later in the night? Is that true, or is that because he made himself known?
Yes.
How did that happen?
He came over and joined our circle, and
hey guys.
Yeah. And he was there with a mate. We had merch, like I didn't have merch, but Dave had merch, and it was Nulla Baps, and she was making conversation, saying, what's Nulla? And because we were a long way away from the Shire, it was kind of a bit odd to, or maybe he was just making conversation, I don't know.
Okay. Yeah.
And so, he joined the group, and and so then, I don't know, we must have danced a bit, and then I remember sitting on the steps at the end outside, and he asked me for my phone number. And I said, no. I said, come to church tomorrow night. And it was just, I don't know, my silly way of determining how committed he was to God, not obviously not to me, but to God.
Oh, but that mattered to you, so that makes sense.
It really mattered to me, yeah. I'd only had a couple of people who were interested in me, but one boyfriend, and I met him at Teen Ranch, and I realised that he was just really light on from a Christian perspective, and I should have done that with him.
Right.
And so that was kind of my measure to see if he rocked up the next day.
And he did?
He did, yeah, he
playing
did.
guitar, and the spotlight was on you again.
I think just to put it out there, my guitar skills consist of a handful of chords, D, A, G, and I like to describe myself as
most Christian music.
Thank you, Brayden. That makes me feel really
good.
At
what point are we getting you up to play with the band? That would be pretty hard.
So he came along, and it's a small church, so he certainly stood out, and then he I don't know, I walked him out, I guess, and
that's walking someone out. It's always like, right, it's time for you to leave.
You've had enough.
I walked with him as he left, and and he had this car, like And it was this colour. Actually, it was the colour of that wall.
That we've painted specially.
Tangerine. It was a tangerine beetle.
Tangerine.
And so we had grown up, I know it's a bit weird, but I had grown up with 2 Volkswagens, and they were the 2 cars. And I used to always say, drop me off in the house in front of where the 2 Beetles are, and to have Stuart. Stuart's lovely, obviously, but here is his Beetle, and he pulls out his fluorotexter and he writes my number, and he still has that piece of paper where he wrote my number on this piece of paper with a fluorotexter that he found in the car, and he also has the poster from Peretti Paid.
Yes.
From that night?
The night
From that
before,
night.
yeah.
Wow.
So we have
cool.
that Peretti Paid poster that he
That's
pulled
lovely.
it off the thing, which is
pretty
pretty
cool.
cool for him to. We don't have other posters in the house, so it's not like he was going around
Collecting them.
Stealing posters.
stealing posters. You're that weird serial poster puller. It's not that.
Poster Pullers sounds like a good band name as well. So.
Yes. Yeah. Post.
Just to pause on the Stu and Lou story,
Yes.
the origin story. What's it like organising band night in the 80s?
Not easy, because I don't think was fax machines even a thing back then. Even just in terms of organising, it was, I don't know, maybe writing. I think there was a photocopier that we're able to photocopy in black and white. It was posting things to churches, asking them to put things in their notice boards, or ringing up the church secretaries. It was certainly very.
You have to rely on other people to, out of their goodwill, to go, oh, we'll put this poster up, rather than now social media, we're just doing it ourselves.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
And no idea what I was doing.
Why did you want to organise them though? I'm still fascinated by this, because there's such a link between you and Stu and the band night.
Well, it was about the gospel. It was about, this is a way in which we can, facilitate the gospel being proclaimed.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and like we said before, there's a scene there, and so that was kind of one of the ways in which I thought that, utilising the scene that exists.
But you'd also had the gospel preached to you, it's how you became a Christian, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, right,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Okay, so back to you and Stu.
Yeah. Have we said actually who Stu is?
No.
No, just people can figure that out.
Oh, okay.
The senior pastor of Sorrel Old Church and your husband.
Yes.
Yes.
It all comes together.
It all comes together.
Oh,
If you want more on Stu, there's about how many episodes of Shock Absorber?
There's close to 100.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, very close.
Watch one of those.
Yeah, there's a few.
Maybe the
He's
first
on a few of those.
A few of them.
So you started going out in year 11, is that
End
right?
of year 11.
End
yep.
of year 11. So that was an interesting question. How much time did you have for each other when you're working so much during the week?
Yeah.
And it was just basically seeing each other at church?
He would drive me from work to TAFE and drive me home again. But I was very...
What would he do? Sit in the cafeteria eating chips?
Yeah, he would. He would sit and talk to my parents while I was studying.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Wow,
And
that would have gone down well with the parents.
And I had... This is my conscientiousness. So when I was studying, I would do 2 hours, 10-minute break, 2 hours, 10-minute break. And my 10-minute breaks, for some reason, I would hit a 9-iron in the back of my yard.
What?
So many things you don't know about me,
This is so good.
So obviously with a plastic practice ball.
Okay, yeah, I was thinking the neighbours aren't going to be very happy about it.
There's a few broken windows.
For 10 minutes, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So I was great at hitting a 9-iron. Couldn't hit anything else, although I was good at papa. But I would do that back and forth, and then my 10 minutes was up, and I'd go back and study again. So I was very regimented and very disciplined because I had to, and so Stuart during that time would just have to work around that.
Wow. What were you going to say?
Giggled at
I just giggled because I giggled at that because there's Dad tells a story about chatting to your dad and then your dad just being like, "Go home, Stuart."
Stop talking during match of the day.
How good is that? Was Match of the Day really on? Was that on SBS? Or was it on something
I
else?
thought it was on Channel 2 actually, because SBS came a bit later. But so that was the other. My dad's English. My dad was his team was Brentford, and my grandfather's team was Chelsea, and they're Londoners, and so when Stuart joined the family, he walked in the day that so going on with the story of meeting Stuart was that he then came to out my house with some flowers. I wasn't there, I don't know where I was, and he wore a Sheffield Wednesday jersey to do that, and which is obviously his family soccer team, and so my father was rather excited by the fact that he walked in. And the weird thing is, actually, I, for some reason, had a pen pal. I don't know how. Like, back in the day, you had pen pals. And I don't know how, but I had this pen pal. The only pen pal I've ever had was this young boy in England. And I was riding back and forth. And he was into motocross and into soccer. And as, most English boys are, I guess. And once he sent me this shirt, and it was this grey shirt. I can still see it. It had this logo on it. And it was a Sheffield Wednesday shirt.
Oh, wow.
No way.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And
That's
I really
crazy.
liked the shirt. It was a lovely, comfortable shirt. But I had no idea what the logo was until later on. And
there you go.
I met Stuart, and there you go. It
So
was meant to be Volkswagen, Sheffield Wednesday, love of England.
Yeah.
Was there any owls involved?
No.
Okay.
Oh, there was an owl on the shirt.
Yeah,
of
I mean,
course.
just like I
It
feel
was
like there'd be like a
beautiful old school owl.
somewhere. Like when Stu turned up, they'd be like, woohoo! So where do we go from here? Did you finish the HSC?
I did. Yep, I finished the HSC, and I think that there's been a number of kind of conversations that have changed my life. And so one of the conversations that changed my life, I think, was that conversation, well, obviously becoming a Christian, that conversation, pretty key. The other conversation that changed my life, I think, was the careers counsellor saying to me, do your HSC.
Yeah.
A complete game changer, I think. And the other conversations I had was meeting Stu's mum and dad. And in year 12, and meeting Stuart's mum and dad in year 12, and being part of their family, and them having a different outlook for their boys than what my parents did. And that was an aspirational one. So they didn't go to uni either, Bev and Pete, but they saw that it was important for their kids to go to uni. And so it was just expected. Not expected, not in a bad way, but it was just, it's just what you do. So I think they would have said that to me, or it just kind of came through osmosis. But I realised actually I can go to uni, and so I thought about what uni courses I might want to do, and so I did my HSC, and then went to uni. So I finished at the bank, and I started working as a checkout chick at Woolworths at Caringbah.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Okay.
And at one
is
stage,
still
I like
there.
to think that I was the fastest checkout chick there. Yeah, thanks for asking.
I do appreciate someone that can be really fast on the checkout, but also packs the bags really nicely.
Yes.
I was going to ask because I knew you wanted to say it. Like,
The fastest?
well, yeah, I was going to be like, how fast were you, Mum?
Were you timing yourself?
Yeah, so there's a leaderboard. There was a
Oh,
leaderboard.
is
yeah.
there?
Yeah.
Oh, so you can actually say it. I thought you were just talking about how, because you felt like you were fast. But no, it was actually competition.
Written in stone.
Excellent.
Yes, I'm competitive and I'm conscientious.
That is a powerful duo.
That is a powerful
Double C.
combination.
Yeah.
Yes, so you'd do your shift, and then I think the next day they would have the leaderboard of how fast you are.
Awesome.
Oh, wow.
But one of the reasons why I realised that what all you have to do is press subtotal between
you got a
packing
hack.
bags. Yeah, it was my hack.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was fast, of course. But I
You're
realised
faster.
that the people who were on the 8 items or less, they were winning all the time. So how is it that people on 8 items or less can win all the time? How is that? It's because they because they finish quickly. So all you have to do is just make sure you press subtitle before, because the timer was continuing to go while the poor checkout girls were bagging.
Put it on the bag.
Putting the thing. And so so I was about to go to the checkout chick competition. They said that...
Sorry, that's a real thing. You're kidding.
Yeah, but Stu's mum and dad bought a Christian bookshop, And so I had the opportunity to go and work in the family business for a while.
Yes.
Oh, for a long while.
And you took your checkout skills there.
Checking them out much
I
quicker.
did, but but there was no
leaderboard.
But I feel prepared now for the fact that it's all self-done now.
Yeah.
So I
Do
feel
you-
pretty
do you
good
time
now.
yourself on the self-checkout? I feel like, see if you still got it.
I weirdly think about how I can do this more efficiently, but that's just
That's not weird. I do that.
I do that too,
Oh, do you?
and I assume it. Let's pretend it's not weird because we're related. It's like I probably got it from you, but yeah, I just like,
Well, that's why it's normal
Gotta
for you to.
maximise
But
speed.
like, I inherited that from
Yeah.
other people in my
Yeah,
family
okay,
as
sure.
well. So,
yeah.
I have a question about the checkout thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, how are they averaging it out if you're only on 8 items or less, or on the full proper checkout? Because that can't be fair if you're only getting
No.
8 items, right?
I know, that's right. It wasn't fair.
So you ended up being the fastest, even though there was people on the 8 items or less.
Yeah.
Wow, that's very impressive.
Yeah. I got a little lump on my wrist. A ganglion. Because
you-
I
From
was
what?
so conscientious.
From RSI.
I was like,
RSI is from scanning.
I had to get cortisone injections.
Did you really?
Yeah.
No way.
Wow. Is that because you was like so much like, I have to beat these people at their own game?
I don't think it was that. It was just I just wanted to be the best I could be. Yeah.
Is that in everything? Why
I
are you
don't know,
so
I don't want to
competitive?
say that. Does that come across badly?
No, it's okay. It's just about you. It's fine. God made you that way. Like, why do you think you are competitive?
I'm not sure that it's competitive. Maybe it is competitive. Dad says he doesn't. Sorry, I'm talking to Ethan, not to you.
It's all right.
Stuart.
That's why we got him on.
Says that he doesn't play Monopoly with me because can be a bit competitive.
You just win.
Because I win.
Oh, are you
it.
one of
You
those
just
people?
win.
My wife's like that. She wins every board game.
No, golly, I'm not. That's why I don't play board games.
Oh.
Actually, is because I don't win, and it makes me feel a bit disappointed. So self-preservation. I guess I am competitive in most things.
But why?
Oh,
I'm asking
I don't
because
know.
I can get competitive in things as well, even though I barely win at anything.
I guess it's.
Do you think it's just trying to do your best in that particular scenario?
I think it is. I think as we were talking before about school or HSC or getting really involved in church immediately. It's just about trying to do your best, and I guess by being competitive, it's kind of doing the best that I can be.
Yeah, totally.
So you and Stuart have started going out. What happens? Where did you go? Where did you go to uni? That's right.
I went to Sydney.
Yep.
Sydney Uni.
And what did you study?
I did a Bachelor of Arts, and I did it in subjects that you could get a job with at the end of it.
It's like, is that just a thinly veiled dig at Stuart?
No, he's obviously very employable. But no, I was just waiting for your dig about people who do Bachelor of Arts. It was a preemptive
I know Brandon
dig.
was thinking that.
Yeah.
I did a Bachelor of Arts. I'm not taking shots.
Sorry, I didn't know you did that.
I did it in industrial relations and
Creative.
psychology. And the industrial relations kind of, I guess, comes from the political background that was kind of permeating in my family and rather kind of left-wing kind of background. And, and then I completed that and I've had a career in human resources.
And was that where you wanted to go with that? Like, is human resources a thing back then? Like, not saying
No,
that.
it was personnel or something like that, I think.
Okay.
I was really very interested in industrial relations. So yeah, that was, but I think it turned out to be a little bit, I didn't really like the idea of the conflict that exists, which is just part of it, industrial relations, that, you're the employer, you're the union, and it's, and also I think it's fairly specific as part of the broader career of HR, and so my first job was a more generalist role, and so I've stayed in the more generalist role.
And was one of the reasons you were interested in industrial relations, like you said, the political background, but also that you could make a difference to a larger group of people.
Yeah.
Why do you think that was so important to you? Is it again being a Christian or something else?
Yeah, I think it was that. And also I remember thinking at the time, I just want to work with people. I know lots of people say that. But I felt that it was, I loved economics. I was good at economics. I got it. And it was kind of putting being interested in people, being interested in business world, and being interested in, I guess the relationship between the employer and the employee, that kind of contractual kind of engagement between the two. I was interested in that. And at the time, I don't know whether or not at the time I thought I could make a difference, but certainly as my career progressed, it's been, I don't think about it as a career. As my time in my job has progressed, I have felt that it is a really great platform to make a difference.
And it feels, sorry, I'll just finish this just on that point, is that it feels like it's like that big scale change. Like you're talking about economics, that can be, policies can have a large impact on a large amount of people. Was that where you really were interested in? Because HR really, tell me if I'm wrong, but HR feels like it's more applicable to organisations that have a lot of people working for them.
Yeah.
Is that why you could be in a position to be able to help lots of people in that kind of larger scale?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense.
I was just going to ask, because you've obviously had a wider scope of experience by the time you got to uni. Like you've done TAFE and you've done HSC at the same time, and you've done that while working. Like, did you enjoy uni? How was that experience as compared to like someone who would have just walked out of school straight into
because we've talked about that a lot before in the early episodes of Chip Lunch.
Yeah, uni was a means to an end.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas Stuart enjoyed uni.
Yeah.
He enjoyed the experience. I guess, we're different beings as well. He enjoyed, lying under the jacaranda tree. Jacaranda trees in uni comes out when you're meant to be, when exams are there. They say if it's out and you haven't started studying, you're probably going to fail. That thing. He liked lying under the jacaranda tree, where I'd be in Fisher Library studying. And I think it was the sense of there was a lot I had to give up to be there. Like I could be working and, I was paying board. Like I was working, I had been working a couple of jobs when I wasn't just working in the bank, I was doing gardening for people as well. Like there was, I think when I was in second year and we got married, third year. And I was, doing a bit of ironing for people and as well as working. So, there was a lot going on. And so, I was there to study. And I even remember actually, and this is just me being annoying, I guess, but Stuart being so excited about graduation and the graduation experience, where to me it felt like a process line. I just felt like, actually, they don't really care about me. I'm just here, it's just putting on a robe and, I get my degree. And, so uni was a means to an end.
Totally.
I don't think you were being annoying.
Okay.
I think you were just being you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Because I think it's like a similar thing of like, people would say like become a prefect or you should do this. I'm like, or peer support leader. I'm like, why? Because it's like, it look good on your resume. I'm like, well, so what? Like, what's that going to achieve? And then actually it matters because that's how other people think in that regard too. Whereas that would annoy me and be like, this is stupid.
I think people just find community in different places.
Yeah, that could be true.
For me, I think we've had this discussion a bunch of times about our experiences of uni and things, and like some people find community at church, some people find community at uni, some people find community at the soccer club or where they're working or whatever. So like for me, my first degree was I'm here to get a degree and my community is at church or with my other friends. And then some people find that community at uni. So I think it's just different perspectives on it.
Yeah, and I think part of my frustration was it's like, just get the piece of paper and you'll get a job. And I'm like, well, why though? Why would you bother doing this to just get this arbitrary thing And I think as we get older, I think going to university has changed from that, even from perhaps when you went to uni, Lou, of that you probably would get quite a good job or a reasonable job for career progression once you got a uni degree. And it happens to a certain extent now, but I think how learning's changed, that we are now like, well, maybe you don't even need to go to uni. Like there's that whole thing in America of like, oh, college is a waste of time, also because you need to borrow thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars of money to actually make it happen. Yeah. Anyway, that's why I was asking the questions and thinking about that. So you graduate.
Yep, and
in the process line.
I graduated, and when I graduated, unemployment. It was the Keating's recession that we had to have, and youth unemployment was something like 25% or something. Yeah, so it wasn't easy to find a job. Yeah, but yeah, I found a job that. In the end, I was seconded into working as a HR person at a chip company, Frito-Lay.
Throughout your whole life.
Oh my gosh,
the chips.
Love chips. And
this is actually the real reason you were 100. It's because the chips isn't just the intro. The chips is the whole time.
Lifestyle.
So yeah, it's a factory that makes light and tangy. Yeah, and
only light and tangy,
and Cheetos, or I think they're Cheetos. Yeah, so they actually light and tangy chips, real potatoes, and Cheetos extruded kind of grossness that goes into this kind of vat, and then it turns it into a chips. Anyway, so I was HR person there. That was my first opportunity, which was fab.
Yeah, so that was what you were looking for?
Yep.
Oh, how good.
Yep. That's good.
I feel, just a heads up, I think we're going to need to have a part 2. Having said that, when does soul revival become a thing?
Yeah, so soul revival becomes a thing basically the same time that Stuart and I get married. So 1991, we saved up some money and we went travelling.
That's right.
Yeah, so we do a lot of, Stu and I, we talk a lot. We're a great team, and we we get ideas from each other, and we were chatting about the idea of different ways in which we could do youth group. But we were but by then we were married, and we were at Guymer Anglican. So I left Cronulla Bats when we got married and went up to Guymer Anglican.
Can I just pause on that for a sec? Sorry, I know there's. I didn't have to make this decision, but there are other people that get married to someone from a different church, either or. What's that decision like?
Yeah.
And making that decision?
Yeah, it was, not easy, but it was, I looked at it thinking Stuart's family is at Guymer Anglican Church, and he's been there a lot longer than I've been at Cronulla Baps, and I think we can make a big difference. I felt bad about leaving. Did I leave... I left well, obviously, but they all came to my wedding, and but then I left. So I felt bad that I was a young person, and it probably would have been really good for their church if a couple went to their church. But yeah, so it wasn't as easy.
Okay, so
before
sorry.
we move on too quickly, can we get a proposal story?
Oh yeah, thank you.
Because I feel like we just skipped over the wedding. We're about to skip over the wedding.
I think it was, we decided, so Stu's mum was keen for Stuart to propose.
So
I feel like that's an understatement too.
She's like, you're going to lose her, you're going to lose her. I was 19. I was 18 because I was married at 19, wasn't I? So he proposed to me down at the beach. I think I'd chosen the ring. I still have that. I don't have the ring. Oh, okay. The ring was crushed when I was on ground control doing barbecue duties. And I was I was down at Grace Point, and I was moving the barbecue, and I squashed it against the barbecue in the wall. And I didn't realise I did that. I was like, and then I was playing with my ring. I was like, Oh, no. I mean, and the little clasp had opened, but the diamond was so small. Who knows where it could have been?
If you want to go digging at Grace Point Oval,
Exactly.
there's a diamond.
There's a diamond somewhere.
With the like the metal detector thing.
That's
Yeah.
right. There's a diamond in the rough.
Did
down
that-
there.
Yeah.
We're quoting Aladdin. Did that stop you from hurting your finger though? Like if you crush it against the wall? Oh, okay.
No, it just hurt it more.
If we told people that there might be a diamond in the barbecue, I reckon more people would sign up
They
just
might.
for an opportunity.
Unearth the diamond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The diamond.
But it was, so I think we'd selected the ring previously. It was just, will you marry me down at Cronulla?
Lovely.
And I said yes.
Good location.
Yes. Yeah, there's a Cronulla theme going on.
Yep. So you saved up money to travel.
Yeah.
Where did you travel? So you got.
Yep.
Is that kind of your honeymoon? Is that what it was?
No, it was, so I was, we got off study and Stu's mum let us stay in their joint for nothing. So we benefited from not having to pay rent, and so I was working, and I because I had already been working, there was money in the bank account. So we went, we travelled, and we stayed with some relatives in England. So that was really great fun.
You just went to England.
Yeah, that's
wow.
for 3 weeks.
I could be. It could be reporting a falsified memory. Isn't that where the idea of commitments came up from on that trip?
Yeah, that's right. I was driving around the Salisbury Plains.
I want to hear your side of the story.
Oh, golly, I really don't remember my side.
don't, okay.
Yeah, no, we can save that for the 101st.
But wasn't it your idea?
Yeah.
I think the commitments thing was your idea, wasn't
it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Over the years, there's been a few things that
have been claimed. It's
names and such things, but yeah.
Because it was about the movie, The Commitments, had just come out.
Yeah.
And it was about finding people who are more committed to the gospel
Yep.
to build a team. Is that what you were thinking?
I really don't remember.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is that where the first ideas of soul revival come from? That trip, do you think?
Yeah. I think it was. There was a youth minister that we were with. That was the youth minister. We were just volunteers, and I think we were doing traditional stuff on a Friday night, and Stuart and I suggested, why don't we do stuff on Saturday nights? And so it came from that. So that's what we did.
Was that one of your ideas?
No, no, but yeah, it was I think that kind of going into my 20s. Mad time, like just ministry was just wild. It was so fun.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. It was just, you're young, you don't have children. You're we had something on 5 nights a week. There was like probably 3 Bible studies because of we met some interesting people at working at the shop, and some Gothics and I don't know, some other people. We decided to have a Bible study with them, as you do. So that that was one night, and 2 nights with church Bible studies, and then we'd have leaders meetings, and then youth group, and then Solies, and then church. That sounds like 6 nights anyway. And I was working, and by then I think Stuart might have been part-time, I think, and it was just so fun, and like there were people over all the time, and we would have like Stuart would go to places to speak, so I would go along with him. There'd be band nights. We would have bands stay at our place. There would be so many kind of spontaneous kind of things. Like I fairly in control, and so sometimes there would be some spontaneous things that would happen that would push me out of that comfort zone of being in control, but it was just fabulous. And just to start something and just to see it grow, even though like I was working very hard helping him do it, but I was really the observer. I was a lay person, doing what other people were doing. But just to see over that 10 years grow from 4 to 500 or whatever it is, it was just fun, super fun.
Is there one particular story that you can think of that you can tell us that like speaks to that time?
It was probably the magical mystery tours that we would do that would go over the 12 hours and just the amount of effort that people put into that, and just the laughter and I think the thing that like Stu's really good at is that he talks about sober joy, but just joy. Like he's just funny. And so it's and he just creates an environment of fun. Being down at St Timothy's Church next door to it, and the band nights that we would have again, Belvedere Blues, and just the mosh pits and the respect that they would always have for girls, and I would be always on the dinner, and making nachos or lemon lime Louises, and it was just
what's a lemon lime Louise?
Oh, you haven't heard of lemon lime Louise? They're famous. It was a particular bottle from Freedom that fitted. I think it was like just the perfect amount of lime juice and lemonade, I think. And because it was like a cafe that we had, we would sell these lemon lime Louises, and they were. They went off.
We ran out. Did you run out? I reckon you would have run out of the material, the ingredients. Sorry.
Yes.
Is that what you imagine you'd do? Is it like be part of a ministry that would grow like that? And
when I was younger,
yeah, is that what you were thinking you were going to do?
As a 16-year-old. Or 14-year-old when I became a Christian, or before that, no. But when I became a Christian, I remember thinking, having a conversation with maybe the pastor's wife or something, or maybe it was just a memory that I had, that I was either going to marry a politician or a pastor.
That's crazy.
Isn't that the weirdest thing?
Yeah, and so a pastor that did have a background in politics.
Yeah, exactly.
That's hilarious.
That's wild.
Isn't it hilarious? And so perhaps I did see that. Yeah, and I guess because I had done that myself before getting married, and like not exactly that, but I was, doing different things as an independent person, as a young person. So
yeah, you didn't just get dragged along for the ride when you met Dad. You actually were already in it, and you were like, let's go. Like it's a really beautiful testament to you guys working as a team in that, like from the get-go, and it not being at every turn Dad being like, all right, let's do this next thing, but it's actually no, let's do this. Like this is really that's really cool, and I like have seen that forever. Like we're only up to like what are you 20 at this point in the story, like but yeah, I've seen that consist forever, which is really, really cool.
Well, that's what I was maybe where I was trying to go with it is it seems like God has chosen for you and Stu to come together, obviously, but also like your history, your family history as well. Like we talked about politics, we talked about your interest in HR. I think, and again, is that because like Soul Revival was exciting to you because that was that similar thing of impacting a large group of people?
I probably didn't think about that at the time. I think it was more that it was the fact that I just wanted to serve God and I wanted to do something, and that was, I don't think Stuart and I ever thought that it was going to be, maybe Stuart did, but I didn't think that it was ever going to be huge. I just thought that we were running, doing as best as we could, and trying to make a difference. I think that was it. It was wanting to serve God and wanting to do the best thing that we could do to serve God. And I would during this time I was also doing Sunday school, and so I would do Solies on a Saturday night. And then I would go to Adam's, so our dear friend Adam, who's also our warden at our church. So I'd go to Adam's house when he was living with his mum, and we would practice guitar at 8 o'clock because we were the band for Sunday school. And so then we would, so I would have had 5 hours sleep, and then we would do Sunday school. And so it was super fun. But I remember my mantra was, well, I've got eternity to rest. and I still say that, you know, when people say to me, how do you fit everything in? I was like, oh, actually, I've got eternity to rest. And I know that different people have got different capacities, so certainly not to make anybody, you know, feel bad about that or whatever. But my outlook was that I just want to go hard for God because He's given me, and He's given me some gifts gifts and stamina, and so I'll do that because of the gifts that He's been able to give me.
What's it like at that time? Like you said, it was a bit wild. But I mean, I've heard some stories from Stu about like different the impact on just having like the first people, that group of people that were coming through were really impacted by divorce and things like that. He also talks about some of the guys that he had relationships with. I'm just wondering, what about in terms of how you were able to be there for the women of that time? Because I think that's probably a perspective we hadn't heard very much.
Yeah. The women probably weren't as they were a bit different group, I guess, to some of the groups of the boys. They were a bit more, not conservative, but anyway. But similarly, they were from, you know, they were from non-Christian homes, and you know, I would do Bible study with them, and over many years, and a few of them I'd be their bridesmaids for, because of our relationship, and you know, I think we went to all of their weddings, and so it was just beautiful to start with them when they were 16 and even younger, and just to grow, and you know, even the girls that were in my Sunday school class, just to see them grow. You know, one of those was Julie Inman, and she, you know, we often talk about, you know, Sunday school days, for example. So yeah, it was beautiful just to see them grow.
You talked a lot about Stu being very joyful at that time, and as have you had as well, but were there difficult times as well? Because ministry isn't always the easiest. Yeah, I think that my 20s was fabulous in relation to, there was lots of exciting things going on for ministry, lots of exciting things. Obviously, you know, Stuart was is just a amazing person, just so visionary, so strategic, such a great leader, just full of he just thinks outside the box, and like he challenges things, but challenges things within a guardrail. Okay.
You know what I mean? Like it's not like, you know, I'm going to you know, start everything all over again, but he still thinks he still challenges things, which is just amazing. And but you know, that saying that when you're in the trenches, if you pop your head over the trench, you're going to get shot at. And so you know, it would have been safer to not challenge things, because he wouldn't, you know, he and therefore me, we wouldn't have been shot at. But you know, I guess that's some of the, you know, challenges of ministry. But I think my 20s was, you know, that was going on within ministry. But meanwhile, there are other things going on personally. Like for me personally, that was pretty challenging. So at 24, my dad died. He had leukemia, and so my dad was 50 when I was born. My mum was 42. So they were mature people. But anyway, despite that, I think at 74, that was still too young. And so I was 24. So that was a big deal for somebody who's, you know, a year younger than Ethan, to be experiencing the loss of their dad. And then my mum died when I was 30, and so that was you're not really closer to one than the other, I guess. But I think my mum and I were very close, and I think that was a particularly challenging time. And then at 26, 27, fell pregnant with Ethan, and that was a challenging time. And then people never ask this question actually. Why is there a 6-year gap between Elijah and Ethan? And I don't know what people assume, or they just perhaps don't care. But yeah, there was some issues in relation to falling pregnant, and so there was this kind of whole lot of challenging things during that time that made me often think, God, what is next?
Did that change your relationship with God at time?
I don't think it changed it. I think that it reminded me of the importance of trusting Him, I guess, as I kind of reflect back. And it was like every time, I mean, people die, don't they? But I guess I wasn't prepared for it. I wasn't prepared for such challenges at such a young age. And so I think that, I think that the Ethan challenge was certainly something that I didn't expect. It was funny, we went to an obstetrician early on, and he said, don't expect that this is going to go well, basically. It was this kind of really weird, down-to-earth kind of conversation.
A bit negative.
Yeah. We walked out. I was like, I thought that was supposed to be exciting. It was like our first, 12-week appointment or whatever it was. And he said, look, things go wrong. People miscarried. People do this, and it might not be a great outcome. Oh, okay, and so then, like, do you want me to tell Ethan's story?
If you're comfortable saying, yeah.
Do you want me to tell Ethan's story?
I think it adds a helpful context.
Thank you.
You can tell it better than I can. I wasn't really there.
Ethan's story, according to his mum.
Yeah.
So at 18 weeks, we went for the ultrasound, and Ethan had a hernia, diaphragmatic hernia, which meant that all of his abdominal contents were in his chest, which meant that it was unlikely that they said that his lungs were going to grow big enough for him to survive. And so after a series of meetings, they said, and further ultrasounds and different things, they said you need to consider your options, which is a pseudonym, is that what you say? For you should consider terminating. They said that most children that have babies that have diaphragmatic hernias, that's what people do. And so Stuart was like, well, we're not terminating, and I went along with it, obviously. I must say, I never out in my mind said, I'm not terminating, but I didn't have that straight, I'm not terminating reaction than what Stuart did. And I certainly didn't argue with him, or I didn't labour over it or anything. But I needed to, I guess I'm a little bit more considered. That's my personality, I think. Yeah. And so I needed it to wash over me.
And think about it.
Yeah, I needed to think about it. Not that I was weighing up my options, but I needed, So we decided to progress with my pregnancy, and that was really challenging because they said that he might not, it's unlikely that he'll survive. And so I remember writing out my note to my boss about maternity leave, and in that note I wrote, if he's born, then I'll apply for a year's maternity leave. If he's not born, if he dies, then I'd like to apply for a month's leave or something like that. And I remember most people go to birthing classes, and we went to see a physio, a one-on-one session to tell us what to do, and which went for an hour or something like that. So we just we grieved, I guess. We grieved the fact that Ethan might not survive. We grieved the fact that we didn't have a normal pregnancy. We had lots of people pray. I mean, goodness. Do you still get people who say to you...
I haven't in a while, but for most of my life, I've had people come up to me being like, oh, I prayed for you when you were a kid. Actually, no, I'd take that back. I had one a month ago.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Isn't it? It's just incredible. Lady. It's 25 years. Yep. And people are still and that was pre-social media. I guess Bev and Pete worked like Stu's mum and dad worked at the Christian bookshop, but even despite that, like people were praying for Ethan during that time.
The reason I was laughing is Bev and Pete were probably like the earlier version of social media. Just telling you, right? That's all. Sorry, continue.
Yeah. And so there was a lot of attention. You know, she was pastor, I was pastor's wife, and so that we managed through that as stoically as what we could, because it's difficult to try to work out that fear and uncertainty and grief yourself, let alone also having other people around you and needing to be sincere or needing to be authentic.
When people just keep talking to you about it, sometimes you probably don't want to talk to people about it. Yep.
Touching your tummy. I remember a couple of weeks, we had some people over all the time. We had some interesting people that were interesting, and they wanted to lay hands on us at the end of it, and whatever they were over at our place for, and so I had all these I'd never met before touching my tummy, laying hands on me, and who knows, that might be why you're here today, Ethan. But yeah, so there was a lot of interest in the pregnancy, and it was we didn't buy any equipment, like what's it called, like baby stuff, like it was very sad. Yeah. But then when he was born at Royal Women's and at Prince of Wales, and
sorry, I giggled because the first story that came to mind was you guys you were in labour and you're driving to the hospital and Dad's shoes smell bad, so he stops, runs into a shop, buys some shoes, comes out.
Yeah.
While Mum's in labour in the car.
Yeah.
You got your smelly shoes.
Yeah. We've got the highest risk pregnancy, like not the highest, but a really high risk pregnancy, but because they smell like cat wee. You know those skate shoes smell like cat wee sometimes?
You got your cat wee shoes on.
Why'd you wear your cat wee shoes first?
Yeah. So
and then he
gets in the car, he pulls out and he hits a dog. And so he gets, the way he tells the story, I don't know how true this is.
It's true.
He gets out of the car, grabs the dog, and he goes, very loudly, because there are people that can see, he grabs the dog and he goes, my wife's in labour, I'm sorry, I can't really help. And then he leaves.
Go and tell your mummy. Go and see your mummy.
Go and see your mummy. And then he gets in the car and drives to the hospital.
And meanwhile, because we're in the combi too, by the way, because for whatever reason,
I broke down.
The Pulsar there was something wrong with the Pulsar. Like we had this other car, and maybe we hadn't fixed the brakes. I don't know, but we're in this car that's got the most ridiculous suspension, and driving from the Shire into Prince of Wales in traffic, like it's peak hour, and so that was what we did. Shaking up and down, bringing on labour even more, whilst I'm waiting for him to look after the dog and get his blooming shoes. And then I'm in labour, by the way, and who do I get as a nurse? But a man. I meant nothing wrong with a man nurse, but this man nurse, because a woman wouldn't be into soccer, but this man nurse was into soccer, and I'm in labour, and he's having this conversation about some soccer bloke, some soccer bloke, what are they called? Player who, Catani, or I can't remember his name, but I think it was quite controversial. And so I'm like, hello, can we bring it back to me and my high-risk pregnancy?
Maybe it's just God's sense of humour.
My goodness.
I've got this under control. It's going to be all right.
Because, of course, Stuart's got his soccer jersey on. And, of course, we have a soccer jersey all ready and waiting for Ethan to be born. Yeah. And, that's the reason why I'm making Sheffield Wednesday. So Ethan's born, and which was fabulous. It turns out that the series of issues that Ethan has, which is described as a syndrome, but the series of things, which are many, there's probably about 8 or 9 of those variety of different things that are inside Ethan that are a little bit unusual.
I have a list on my phone because I don't remember. There's so many of them.
Yeah, there are a lot of them. Is a thing called, well, one of the names of it is called Ivermark syndrome, and that's because some doctor just noticed these series of things with other babies, and but the main issue that causes the death of Ivermark syndrome children is that they have significant heart deformation, and because it's a thing that's to do with the symmetry that occurs when the eggs are doing whatever they're doing at 6 days or something, and so things are kind of swapped over. And so Ethan, for example, has his heart on the wrong side, and he has his abdominal contents on the other side, and so
is it reversed or is it just moved?
it's reversed. So your heart is on the other side actually, where everything else is reversed. And so for example, the spleen would have, if he was born with a spleen. Sorry, he was born with his appendix, but his appendix was removed because it was actually on the other side, and it would have been a problem if he's like, oh, ow, my stomach's sore, when it's not on the correct side. So all the abdominal contents are on the wrong side, the heart's on the wrong side, he has no spleen, so he's asplenic, he's got a funny shaped pancreas, funny necks, like some vertebrae that are missing.
Who needs them?
Etc., etc. So, but anyway, most people with Ivermark syndrome, 95% of them have a severe heart defect because of the fact that the heart's been reversed, and so bits and pieces but he didn't have that. So he is the 5% of people that do not have that heart defect, and which is the reason why Ethan is here today. Because of prayer, I think we believe
it's genuinely a miracle. I think
genuinely a miracle. We believe that what are the chances? Well, they're 5%, but what are the
they're 5% of what one, like what's the percentage of people who get Ivermark syndrome?
I don't know.
It's 5% of that.
It's even smaller. Yeah.
So he was in hospital for 3 months with an NG tube. He was allowed to leave when Stuart and I were taught how to use an NG tube.
Is that's so? Just to clarify, that's you fed through the tube.
Yeah, that's right. So they taught Stuart and I to put the NG nasogastric down his nose and not his lungs, which it's bad if it goes into the lungs, good if it goes into the stomach. So he came home, so we fed him through that tube. Then 6 months later, he got a PEG, which is a feeding tube in his stomach, so he didn't have to do the thing because by then he's had increase in dexterity, so he could pull it out with his little finger and stuff. So he was fed through this thing called a kangaroo pump, and there was efficiencies in that. I could walk around Miranda Fair, pouring the milk in the tube, and
it's a wild image.
that was challenging because it was tremendous. Ethan was born, and he was such a miracle. And then it was the trips to the hospital, the trying to get him to feed, trying to work out all the other any other problems that he might have had, and
You mentioned the chips and gravy, and one of them was the TAFE, and the other one was the Children's Hospital.
Yes.
What is the memory that goes along with the Children's Hospital?
It
chips
was
and gravy.
Yeah.
Is it to do with? I'm guessing it's to do with Ethan.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It's to do with Ethan. So Sydney Children's is right next to. It's on the campus next to Royal Women's, and so it was the visits going in to Royal Women's, and then having chips and gravy after that.
Yeah.
It is you walk past the cafe on your way to Sydney Kids, and so it was us having chips and gravy after visits to the clinic or to the different doctors that we would be going and seeing. Yeah, and also waiting for operations. So Ethan had 2 operations, and so it was hanging around as you do, waiting for the for them to let you know that you can come and see your kid afterwards.
And then later I had a scoliosis, and we would have to go to the Children's Hospital to do appointments for that, and we would sit and eat chips and gravy. That was great.
Because you had to wear a brace too, right?
Yeah. So it was later. You were
was one of those.
diagnosed with it. So you're
Yeah.
born with it. So it's congenital scoliosis.
Yeah.
And so he, they saw that because they can't see it when you're crawling. They see it when you're upright. And so at the age of 2 or 3, and then he was braced at the age of 4. So great big plastic orthotic thing that went from his tummy all the way up to the top of his collarbone, and connected with these straps at the back, and with a singlet underneath it. And so Ethan is as slim as what he is today, and so we also used to have to put baby powder on these, what are these called? These bones here, hip bones, just because they were rub. And I'm not just saying this because he's my son, but Ethan did not complain. So he wore it this 20 hours a day from the age of 4 to the age of 10, and there was not one day that he complained and said, this sucks, take it off me. And so just amazing.
But yes, I didn't complain because it got me chips and gravy a few times a year.
That's why you're like, I'm holding out for that excellent chips and
That's
gravy.
it. That's what it was
Sydney
all. It
Children's
was all
Hospital.
worth it. It was all worth it for the chips and gravy.
Lou, can I ask? So you mentioned your parents.
Actually, sorry. Before we go there, I did wanted to say that I'm really, when we were saying whether you should tell that story or not, I'm really glad you did tell that story.
Me too.
Because this is almost more your story than it is mine. This has all impacted me and stuff. Probably the brace more than anything else. Any of that other early stuff impacted me because I wasn't really impacted. And as far as I'm aware, I'm here now. Cool, that's great. And
You almost wouldn't have known any different.
Totally right. And so it was a lot of the emotional hardship and all the other hardship was on you. And so I'm really glad that it was a part of your story and that you could tell it because A, you tell it better than I do, but B, it had that impact on you, and it is just as much, if not more, your story that it is mine. And sorry.
No, I'm really glad you said that because my question was kind of related to that though. It was because you talked about your parents passing away and then what your story with Ethan, and you said there was a lot of grieving in that time. I'm just wondering how did you manage to deal with that, and what do you think that God taught you through that? Because it's such difficult times, all of that. I think as Ethan's saying, I don't know if everyone at church knows that story. I know there are quite a few of us, but I don't think there's some others that didn't. So that's why I'm glad that you did tell that story. But yeah, what did you learn from that so much, having to deal with so much grief?
I learnt that I can't do it on my own. So I am naturally quite independent. Naturally, I don't need people, actually. Relationships, I'm kind of, what do they call it, ambivert or something? In between extrovert and introvert.
Okay.
But I'm pragmatic enough, I can kind of, I can do stuff on my own. I change the light bulbs. Don't I?
You do change the light bulbs.
Girls can do anything, that's that kind of thing. But I realised that actually you can't be an island when you're going through tough times. And Nikki Wright was a paramedic at the time, and I remember her coming in and visiting me at the hospital, and I was like, I don't need you to come in and visit me, and she's like, I'm just going to. And I realised that by her imposing herself on me, I did need that.
Okay.
And I did need people did meals for me, and I did need those meals, and I realised that I just realised I need people, and I think I needed to let people into my life. I think I was, I'm relatively private relative to Stuart, and I realised that I kind of needed to be a bit more open. Yeah.
What did that look like for you after? What was different? You becoming more open.
Maybe being willing to share with still certain people, but willing to share, when I wasn't going as well, perhaps. Yeah, I'm still not great at that. am I, Ethan? Yeah.
I got to get it from somewhere.
Sorry, I was just I heard you make that comment, and I was like, oh, I don't know if that's true or not, but
It's very true.
okay. I don't know if I had a question after that. It's an awkward pause.
No, that's all right.
That's fine. What we normally ask this question. Actually, we might skip. You do have a second son. I might skip to him.
That's a good point.
Not forget.
You mentioned this in the 6-year gap.
Yeah, yeah. How is it going from working through all the stuff with Ethan? Obviously, the challenges that came on in between.
I just want you to make sure. I want people to hear the question.
Between Elijah and Ethan as well.
Yes.
How was then journeying into having a second child?
I was the worst.
Hanging out with Elijah.
It was the worst.
Ethan's.
Yeah, it sucked. She hated it. It was just us for a while, and then this usurper comes along.
Your own personal fiefdom.
Oh, it was we were fine.
You tell a story.
We
about
were
sitting-
totally fine, and then this kid comes
about
along.
sitting there sad that no one was paying attention to you anymore.
Yeah, actually, genuinely, that's like one of my earliest memories is Eli coming home and me being like absolutely gutted.
Oh, because you were like, it was 6.
Yeah, 6
So
years.
yeah.
This was we were a crew, and I had my my wait staff in mum and dad, and I'm just like chilling. Every need is for me.
Yes.
Which by then you were eating, which was helpful.
Yeah, that was.
Yes, you didn't need the
didn't need
feeding
the
through the
tube
tube
at 6.
by then. It was
Yeah, no, it's
after
true.
2 years.
Yeah. No, actually, I will tell this story because it leans into the maybe how similar I am to mum in my pragmaticness. But I was sad sitting at the bottom of the stairs when Eli got brought home, and like everyone's coming over and visiting and like giving Eli presents, and I'm not getting any presents, and like it's such a bummer. I'm not getting any attention, and the extrovert in me is like, why aren't all these people hanging out with me?
Yep.
And Dad came over and sat down with me, and he was like, he said something inspiring, and he remembers it better than I do. Like he remembers the words that he said, but I do remember it being helpful, and then me being like, okay. And then never being bummed about it again. It's like, yeah, cool. Sick. That checks out. He's cool. Let's go. And then we were friends again. But yeah, sorry.
From the parent perspective.
Yes.
From the parent perspective. So we decided to try to have another baby after maybe 3 years. So we kind of needed a bit of space. Mm-hmm. And then unfortunately we were back at Royal Women's because I couldn't. And but eventually through some interventions, I did. So I guess that was pretty bothersome for me because it was just yet another, oh my goodness, can I just not have a, why is it so hard?
Yeah.
Like can't it just be, can't I just fall pregnant like other people fall pregnant? Or can't I have a baby, and can't I have an easy time of it?
Yeah.
And so it was frustrating.
Mm.
Yeah, but Elijah was born.
I thought you were
at Royal Women's.
taking that part and also putting Eli in that. Just like, it was all frustrating.
And 2 boys. Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah. Difference in having such a big age gap?
I think whether it's a big gap or a small gap, I think in the end it's about the relationship, like whether or not the kids have got similar personalities or how they get on. One of the great advantages is that there was no competition between the two of them because of their age gap maybe, although maybe some people with big age gaps there's still competition. But, like Ethan, he achieved some, school captain, vice captain, high school. Like there were some things that poor Elijah coming along 6 years later, he could have been particularly, affected by, I guess. People knew Ethan's an extrovert, but I think, you guys fought a few times, but 3 times, like, I don't know. Like 3 times. Like it's just...
Yeah, like, I don't know. We didn't fight.
Someone with brothers, I'm like, 3 times before breakfast. Seems like a minor miracle in itself.
Oh, we get cross at each other, but not very often.
Yeah. Just so I think it was great, but it was like for Elijah probably being an only child again, probably not again, but being an only child, I guess, like in the same way that Ethan was an only child for 6 years, because of the age gap. They could play a bit, but not really. So there was but it did mean that I could focus. It wasn't so busy that I could imagine that like you'd be experiencing with a close age gap, but not that's that close, but it's busy. Whereas to have like a 6-year-old and a baby, like the 6-year-old's very, self-reliant. Yes. And so it's not like I'm looking after a 2-year-old and a 0-year-old. Yeah. Like it's, it felt like, I could get it. It helped with ministry. Like it meant that I could, get on with doing the things that I was doing more easily than if like they were. Yeah. So there's certainly we know that everything's there because God has planned for it to be there. So I know that, my problems in my 20s, in terms of my own personal, they were there to grow me. And they were there for me to be a stronger, more perseverant, more resilient person. And, God knew that there were going to be a 6-year age gap between the boys and.
Is that how you felt like that at the time, knowing this is going to grow me, or is it always on reflection?
It's always on reflection. And I think that's, as I kind of reflect back, I think, I wish that I was during that time a bit more trusting or more thoughtful, that just because this is happening now, it doesn't mean that it's always going to happen in the future.
It's funny how we do that, isn't it?
Yeah. Because I was just waiting for the next bad thing to happen. That defined me a little bit. I was always waiting for that big next bad thing. It's just around the corner.
Is that possibly why you went so open with people too? Because then you would have to share another bad thing and another bad thing. Yeah. That's tough.
Yep. And I think also being, the minister's wife or the youth minister's wife.
You've got to have.
I needed to have some privacy, I guess.
Yeah.
And
because you're fully present all the time with so many people. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm talked about. I'm a bit. My nature is to control, not to control things badly. I don't think I'm a controlling person. No.
Not at all.
But I like with most people, a lot of people anyway, you want to be in control, and so I think that was something that I needed to learn about, to be not as in control as to trust God in more things.
Well, I think hopefully we're not repeating a question, but tell me about the control thing. So how have you let that go? And I think maybe sometimes I like it when guests say a little bit of things that I resonate with, because I think I was probably more like that when I was younger as well. How does it manifest itself, and how do you do you recognise it more often now and go, oh, maybe I can tone it down on certain things?
Yeah, I think that I'm very organised, and so I would want to ensure that I had every I dotted and T crossed, and I think that sometimes that doesn't leave room for God to do his thing, I think. So how did it manifest? I Googled everything to do with Ethan's hernia, with his issues. I would, want to make sure that, I had everything planned, my letters to the... And so I think that, if I had control of it, then maybe I could, I don't know, feel better or something like that. I think that's why I did it. But I realised that I can't, you can't be in control of things. Nobody can. And, so I just needed to, it's still, because it's still part of my personality, I plan for my retirement, I plan for my holidays. Like, Stuart laughs at me because, our holidays are planned to the minute. I can Google how long it'll take to go from, I don't know,
A to B.
A to B.
And it'll be...
Yeah, I don't think that answered your question.
It'll be an hour and 7 minutes.
I just asked you, how does it manifest itself? You just told me a number of times how it does. So you didn't answer the question. Yeah.
One thing that makes it very difficult to be with being somebody who likes to control things, and you know, your wives will feel this, and that's being a minister's wife. And when things happen to you guys as part of your job, and you work them through, and you tell your wives, so Stuart would tell me, but I didn't have an opportunity to work it through. You know, I don't resolve it with, because it's not my job, you know. So he resolves it with, you know, person X, and I can't resolve it with person X because I've got nothing to resolve it with, obviously. It's not my issue. But I'm still left with, that person was mean to my husband. That sucks. And or this happened to him, and this circumstance happened to him, and I really don't like that. And so that's part of not actually having any agency in something that, as in ministry, you're so connected with. Like we're all doing our. You know, I know your beautiful wives are doing it in partnership with you guys. I'm doing it in partnership with Stuart, and so we're doing it together. But yet, as the minister's wife, as the pastor's wife, you can't impact some of those things. Because it's not your job. So that's something that is really hard. It's a real challenge.
It would be. Yeah.
And you know what? One way in which I took back control was when I was in my 20s, I went on parish council, for example, and I became a nominator.
Yes.
And so that's a great example of like, actually, like I don't know. It's an example of me taking back control, not an example of how I've dealt with it. But yeah, I went on parish council, and Adam and I, we were a team together. We were the people that fought for the budget to make sure that there was the staffing for the youth, staffing for the factory. That was, like, speak for myself, that was my job. I saw that as my job, was to do that. And we did that. We did that year after year after year.
You sure did. Do you have a question then?
Oh, I was just like, it's more that tension of, like, you're talking about how things personally were really hard as well, but then you also have that tension of ministry never really slows down and things are still happening. And I guess, yeah, you kind of answered that by saying how you kind of shifted a little bit and moved into parish council, things like that, and just moved it maybe. But, like, yeah, how did you find that going from, like you said, you were doing stuff every single night, and you had Bible studies and people over and band nights and solis and all these things, but then you've also now got family things that are really hard at the same time. Like, how did you find that balance over the course of your 20s?
So this is now transitioning into the 30s, I guess, when I had Elijah as well. And I felt comfortable that I could slide into something that was where I was still ministering, I was still adding value, but it was something that I was able to do because Stuart was out many nights of the week, and so I needed to get that balance, and I needed to continue to chose to continue to work. So parish council and being a nominator, so more being a parish councillor, meant that I would be able to continue to add value. So, yeah, I mean, it still did, I think we did Arvo. So there was still some really interesting things that we continued to do. We, worked creatively how to get kids babysat on Saturday nights. Bev and Pete, Sue's mum and dad helped a lot with that. So, still did cooking and, showed up heaps. But I remember there was a Sunday night when I stopped going to church a little bit because like Elijah was just a little bit sad sometimes during church and whatever, and so it was just a bit of a struggle. And I remember the minister at the time rang me, and he actually said that why aren't you at church? You're a leader. You're a parish councillor. And I cried. And actually, I don't like to cry in front of people. And but I think I was really, number one, disappointed that this person would say that to me, and number two, it was true. I hadn't been at church, and so two things. I went to church. He apologised for being so inconsiderate, because I think I said to him, I think that's pretty inconsiderate. Actually, these are the reasons why I haven't been going, and but that's what I needed. Yeah. So I needed to be told to not to come back. I hadn't stopped, but there was just some weeks that I was probably being a bit inconsistent. Not because of all the things that were going on, probably more just the challenges of having taking a young kid to church at night time at 7 o'clock at night, because night church was 7 o'clock at night.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? I can't believe we used to go to church that late.
Yeah, I know.
No, I think it
blows my mind.
because then we'd go hang out afterwards too.
Yeah.
Like it was late, man. You'd go to bed at like midnight or something, and you'd already done Solies the night before, which was like go home at midnight, 1 a.m, something like that.
Yeah.
You say, Ethan, do you have something?
No.
Oh, you gave me the look that I thought you had something.
I'm disagreeing with you. That's ludicrously late.
Is that a pun? Ludicrously late?
I like alliteration.
No, you can go with Lou. Did you only just
Lou's ludicrous.
I think just ludicrous. Maybe I think maybe just call you ludicrous, like
Ludicrous.
the rapper.
Like the rapper.
What transitioning to your 30s?
Yes.
What's your career like? Because you're a bit of a big kahuna these days.
I was a less of a big kahuna back then. No, I'm not a big. I'm
small
not a big
kahuna. Yeah, you're a small kahuna.
I was very fortunate to get a job in. I've always worked in manufacturing, and I was fortunate to get a job in the Sutherland Shire. Actually, where Bunnings is, there used to be a steel manufacturing company there for was called Armco, and so basically what they manufactured was guardrail.
There's Armco barriers.
Armco barriers.
Yeah.
Oh,
all the guardrails around roads.
Yes, that's
Is
right.
they called Armco?
Yes, yeah. That's kind of like the, I don't know, like the.
It's like when they say like I'm going to go Hoover something.
Yeah, exactly.
But Hoover's the brand.
Or a Band-Aid
right.
or a Panadol.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So we made guardrail there, and so there was a big presses, and there was big galvanising things. So there was hydrochloric, big vats of hydrochloric acid and
which they dip it in or whatever, don't they?
Dip it in, because it becomes a sacrifice for the zinc that they then put in, anyway. So they did that there. Then so I was there as their HR manager and safety manager so I worked there, and we moved to Minto. So I was Minto for 6 years. So for 16 years.
Wow.
So I was their HR manager, and then from there, at the same time that we started Sorrow Bible Church that same year, I moved. I work for Zip now.
I didn't know it was in the same year that we started Sorrow Bible.
Yep.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, it was a good year. It was a year we started Sorrow Bible Church. We bought a Mazda. We bought a dog. I know all the big things.
All the big things.
A Mazda, it's always on my list.
Within the same
I do
weekend.
like that Mazda.
Because
Mine now.
Yeah, I was going to say, you still got it, haven't you?
Yeah, and I got a new job
Well,
after 16 years, so it's pretty significant.
Wow.
So you're at Zip now, is that right?
I am, yeah.
Yeah, okay. You're like the director of HR, right?
I am.
Worldwide?
That is my title.
Is it worldwide?
It's so
Like Mr.
Zip is
Worldwide.
worldwide, but it's owned by a larger organisation, and I'm not in
okay.
charge of the larger organisation.
Okay, that
Yes.
makes sense. So
They're
for
like-
Australia, though?
For Australia, there's about 700 to 1,000 employees, depending if you include the UK, and it's great. It's a good job. Love it.
Yeah, I can tell
Been
that
there
you
for
do,
10
like,
years,
do
11
enjoy
years,
it.
11
Yeah,
years.
that's cool. You spoke about that you got that job at the same time as Sorrow Bible Church.
Yeah.
Can we talk about what planning a church is like? So you've gone through like starting a ministry at Guymer Anglican,
Yeah.
and then all the difficult stuff that you talked about, and then obviously there's the difficult period of leaving Guymer Anglican, which is you'd been your home for a long, long time, and then starting a church.
Yeah.
What is your perspective? Because again, like we said, we often hear Stu's perspective on that stuff, but what is your perspective on, first of all, like what did you think you were going to do once you left Guymer? Was it immediately thought again, oh, let's plant a church, or was that later?
Yeah. So
Not sorry, you wouldn't have said let's plant a church. You would have said, were you even thinking of that, or were you, like, because I know that the bishop invited us to plant a church. So is that what you were thinking of doing, or you're like, oh, good, we get to have a break from doing ministry?
no, I was thinking that.
Oh,
Yeah. So I think that. Yeah, I think the process by which we left Guymer was sad. just another story that I think Stuart gasps at, which is
excellent.
which is shocking to think that there's something that Stuart gasps at. It's not really such a big deal. I'm overstating it, but just going back to that control thing, was that so Stuart was the one who lost his job or stopped working at Guymer Anglican Church, but Matt, but it obviously had impact on Lauren and myself.
Yeah.
But we couldn't do anything about that. And so my way of claiming back control over this situation was on that Sunday morning was to wear a black dress. So I know it's so lame, but Stu's shocking because he's like, don't do it, and I did it. And so there's not very many times that I think that's ever happened in our marriage. But it was and Lauren did it too. So we both wore they're pretty black frocks, but we wore a black frock to that Sunday morning.
Were they from the Q sale?
Yeah, probably. No, it was a Dangerfield one actually. It was a nice one. So I don't know. I just think it was exciting. I think I like the idea of starting afresh. I think that I felt like I needed something new. I think I just if I saw that, as much as I love the church, that bright fuchsia panelling in that church any longer. I think it was kind of time. We tried different things. We were in the morning service by then. I was excited to start afresh.
So we talked about the challenges. Like there was obviously hard times, challenges, sad leaving Guymer, and big and financial pressures and things going on at that time. But we've also spoken a lot about joy over the course of Soul Revival. What are some like the joyful moments you remember about starting the church plan and starting something new?
Yeah. Wow. My house, 30 people in my house.
That's exactly what I thought of just then. Yep.
So fun. Yeah. Just designing something. It is so cool. It is so cool to go, okay, well, where are we going to meet in a hall? Are we going to meet in a park? Are we going to do meals? Are we not going to do meals? Like, it was just so fun. It was such a privilege. How many people have that opportunity to design a church? Yeah. Really, it's once in a lifetime because most people, I reckon 99% of people, they go to a church that's been there for years. Yeah. And so to be able to, and with your friends, to do it with a whole group of people that are as passionate and as committed to it as what you are, that's just such a blessing. Yeah.
I mean, as soon as you asked that question, Brain, I thought of sitting in your house in the lounge room going, we're doing this. And I think it was really special. But it also felt like, we know how to do this. Yeah. That's my perception of it, was that, we didn't expect to have to do this, but, we've kind of been doing it for a long time. And we're just trying, how do we translate that into a whole church rather than just being on a Saturday night? And I remember even when we were like, well, what night do we meet on? It was kind of like, everyone's like, we could do on Sundays. And I was like, well, we've just been doing Saturday night forever. Why don't we just do that again? So there was a lot of assumptions that we were able to do quite quickly, I think. I don't know if that's your thoughts as well.
I think that there's a lot of advantages to Stuart and I being in our 40s. And you guys being where you guys were and your experience, but the fact that actually it's new, but it's not brand new.
That's a good way to say it.
And the challenges of working through it, they're new, but they're not the first time that we've had to deal with these things, and so it just makes it a bit easier because of that. I reflect on church planting. If you hear about it at college, Braden, but I'm on one of the committees, the Anglican committees I'm on is called Evangelism in New Churches, and that's all about church planting, and so we often talk about it, and it's such a challenge because generally they're people that haven't done it before, but the privilege that Stuart and I had was that we had grown something before. And Stuart is so amazing with structures, and he thinks in structures as well as thinking relationally. So he's very, very gifted. It's unusual, I think, for somebody to have the capability to be both, to be structured And because people think sometimes he's a bit organic, but he's so not. Like he's so well thought through and so intentional, and he's relational all at the same time, which is just incredible.
I was just thinking that like that approach that Stu has, or those two gifts that you said, like that's what makes it look organic, but it isn't. It has the appearance of being organic, like you're saying, but then there's so much thought, and I think it lends himself to like so much divergent thinking, like that guardrails you talked about, like within certain parameters, but the divergent thinking is, and I suppose that's probably what maybe excited you as well, is that because we even talked about like we're almost broken up your life into decades here. Like you talked about your teenage years, and then your 20s was building your career and also building in ministry. And then 30s is just kind of establishing that. And then it was like you're in your 40s basically for Soul Revival Church, and then you like redo your whole those two things, but you redo them all again, which is kind of an interesting pattern. That's all. That's just an observation more than anything else. What is the thing that stood out to you the most? Do you think? Like I know we talked about it's exciting to be taking some, but I asked you before about a specific example of originally establishing Soul Revival Ministry. What about establishing Soul Revival Church? Was it like the launch day, or was it when we really started to grow, or what is your enduring memory?
Probably like an Easter Sunday, and just looking at all of those people at Swallow Rock, and just thinking, man, these guys weren't together 5 years ago or 6 years ago, and there are so many people, and I know the names of most of those people, and I think that's probably one of the enduring memories that I have, and of course in the baptisms that we do, like how amazing is that? Yeah.
What I've had this similar reaction to when we did the 30th anniversary last year. Was just like all the paraphernalia, if that's the right word, like all the stuff that we kept as cultural artifacts over so many years, and just like I kind of came in at the 20-year mark, like the 20-year mark, 10 years for Soul Revival, and I'd been around for kind of 20, which is like really, really special, and to see, there's all that stuff beforehand, but I was part of all this, and I think that we kind of continue that on in planning the church. And it wasn't an intentional thing, but it just ended up happening that way. There's just, we're going to keep. And I think, like, even doing this podcast is kind of a way of doing that. Like, we're now up to episode 100. Like, there is, before this one, there's 99 episodes of primarily me banging on about this kind of stuff, though. And I think that's really special. And I think you're a really big part of that, Lou. So I'm not wrapping up the episode, but I just had to say, I think you're a foundational part of that. And I think this is the longest conversation we've ever had. So I appreciate that.
We just need a microphone between us. So that will...
We'll do it on Zoom.
If you have a favourite son, blink once. If it's me, blink twice.
You only put yourself as...
She's not blinking.
She's never going to blink.
She's never going to blink again. I thought that was really important to capture on camera, but she's got away from us.
So would you... I'm gonna reveal how old you are if I ask this question. Because what would you turn? Are you 50s yet?
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, I don't want to be rude. Well, I didn't want to be rude, but okay. So what are you terming the 50s decade as then? So you had 20s was Soul Revival Ministry, 30s is becoming a mum, and the second decade of that, 40s is planning a church.
Yeah.
What about 50s?
Yeah, doubling up.
Oh, yes.
Let's go.
Yes.
So it might have been my idea. Anyway.
There we go. We need like a post-credit scene, like a series of cuts that was just you saying things that were your idea. It'd be so good. Goes like an extra
20 minutes.
Yeah.
It was commitments, it was light leaders, it was...
Oh, that's awesome.
But yeah, just the whatever happens in the next 10 years, I was just really, really excited just to see, you know, it just growing even more than what it's done. So that's what I'd like to see.
Yeah. Unreal.
Is there any other questions you guys have before we ask the final question?
Both looking at me.
Oh, because you're in the middle, that's all.
So much pressure. I guess just like obviously moving, like running Soul Revival Church and like being a big part of it has been a big thing over the last 10 years. And like Joel said, like we had a fun celebration of that last year. Do you have any like big memories that jump out from that time of, just basically being at church? Like we talked about setting it up and now it's kind of been a big thing for a little while. Like, do you have any good memories from that time period?
I've got a memory of Elijah reading the Bible when he was maybe 7 on a stool. Maybe it was at Christmas time or
2 or 3
something.
years ago.
I think I remember that though.
I remember Ethan's first sermon. You know, I think that it's such it's so amazing to do church as a family, and to have 2 boys becoming men, who are men, who are walking with God, and I think that so I think just to see, you know, my family there, to see Stu's mum and dad, Katie Ethan's wife Katie coming along, Katie's mum and dad coming along, just just the family part of it. I guess that's really, really important.
Like a new generation kind of thing.
Yeah. And I think that actually just seeing people, that next generation of, you know, people having babies and then these children like Ted and who were, you know, OG kids who are young adults or who, not quite yet, but, you know, they're just, they're getting older and just to think, wow, I guess there's always a fear with church planting. Is it going to continue beyond the launch team? And like as the years go by, you think, it will. You know, there really is. It is sustainable, and so that's what I'm really excited about. But that just didn't answer your question. But
quick aside, you mentioned Eats first sermon. People would normally attribute Stu being a great public speaker to Ethan's maybe growing public speaking skills and sermon skills, but I know the real wizard behind the curtain is you, Lou, in terms of public speaking. What would be your tips for public speaking? What have you passed on and taught Ethan that you can then enlighten the rest of us with?
Yes. The 5 Ps, which is preparation prevents poor performance. That's 4, but there's a naughty one in there.
Yeah. I was going to say there's another. You missed one, didn't you?
Good structure.
Yeah.
Okay. We love a good structure.
We love a good structure.
We love a bookend.
We love a book. I was waiting for that one. Like, we love a bookend.
Awesome.
I think it's what the punters like.
Yeah, they love a bookend.
Yep.
It's always about bringing it back to the.
Hey, so what's an example of a bookend though?
What's the example of a bookend? When you kind of close something with what you used at the start, and it wraps that up nicely. Is that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And something that moves you. Must say,
Like
I don't think we've
story,
ever talked about doing sermons, but in terms of actually a good. So the context there is that Ethan was an effective public speaker, and so we would very
still is
diligently and very conscientiously we would practice that quite a lot.
Yeah, and a lot of the manner and a lot of those things like structure and all that stuff, like that all comes from how I was very effectively trained.
It was quite disciplined. It's a bit of a discipline.
It was a discipline, and it's a skill that can actually be worked and figured out. Like it's not just I think there's probably a bit of natural stuff in there because I can talk a lot, but I think a lot of it has been a lot of discipline. Yeah, be good.
As someone who's done a few things up front, in front of people, I think not public speaking. I didn't enjoy public speaking that much, but I find it interesting that when I've like emceed weddings and stuff, is that people actually want you to do well, and that they're often, and that preparation actually pays off quite a bit. But they, like, everyone sees this person go out the front, and you know how the kind of thing is, like, when you get out the front, you're nervous because, like, I'm in front of all these people. What are they going to think? But if you can do some of those things that you're talking about, everyone goes, oh, I'm so glad they got up the front and said something.
Totally.
It's an interesting dynamic
Yep.
that people are so scared of it, and I still am. But like, you're so scared of it, people actually just, as long as you do like a reasonable job, people aren't going to go, he sucked.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's obvious when you suck, but if you are reasonably well prepared, then
Totally.
yeah, for all those people thinking about doing public speaking, listening,
Helps when you've got a home crowd.
this is true. That is probably why I was more encouraged to keep doing things at the front. There was a reasonable home crowd for me. Yeah, that's a good point. Shall we ask the final question?
Yeah. What is something that you wish you knew that you know now that you wish you knew as a younger Christian?
Checks notes.
Check notes. Knowing that this is what you'll did think about this one in advance. So I think so there's a song that I really like, and it's a Cat Stevens song called Wild World, and I wish I had paid more attention to that rather than to the words of that, rather than to actually the nice tune and it's the catchy melody. That's right, sing along. I wish I had them just sung along. And it goes, baby, it's a wild world. It's hard to get by upon a smile. And so I remember working at the bank and smiling and thinking, not knowing what to say, but if I just smiled, then I could get away with that. I spent a lot of my time kind of smiling my way through things, but that's just kind of one part of it. But I kind of guess I thought that the world would be gentler.
Okay.
And I don't think I was prepared for how tough the world, how tough the road ahead was going to be when I was younger. And I think I was kind of, I guess just everybody is, I guess, naive and, kind of optimistic and sometimes I wish I had, that doctor that I talked about, the obstetrician, who said, your pregnancy could be really bad. I just wish I had that in my ear, somebody saying, I kind of did. I remember, so Stu's dad is a great, he's fabulous. And I met him, as a young person. And the thing that he used to say to me all the time was love. Love, Christians are going to let you down. This is what's going to happen because they're imperfect. But keep your eyes on Jesus because he won't. Now, that was an amazing foundation, and that kind of has kept me from being bitter and twisted over the years because, I know that Jesus will never let me down. But I guess I just kind of thought that, that Proverbs of the rain falls on the good and the bad, I kind of wish I'd known that a bit more, and then I wouldn't have been so surprised, I think. Like, I think Stu's dad helped me with the Christians are going to suck. They're going to, not all Christians, obviously, they're very lovely, but, you're going to have some tough times with people, but I don't think I was prepared for generally there's going to be tough times.
Okay.
And that, so I think that, but what it's meant that is that I have developed with that perseverance. And I think that's really, really important. That's really cool because I've grown within perseverance, but I just don't think I realised how much perseverance that I needed.
Yeah.
Oh, that's an interesting way to finish it. We're going to need more perseverance. But that's like so much of the story is like God teaching you more and more perseverance, hey? Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it's really cool.
No, it's been, I don't know what else to say to that, really. I think you are, when every time we have someone on the podcast and then they say, God taught me that, you go, yeah, that makes total sense. Like that's why we eventually put that question at the end, because some people are like, I don't know how to answer that. But then we go over their life and then they tell us the answer to that and they go, oh yeah, that's what God's been doing throughout my whole life. without me even knowing it sometimes. But yeah, I think that's really special, and I think it's been really special having you on. And this is even better than I thought it would be. So thank you so much, and thank you for preparing a little bit, so there wasn't such poor performance.
Right.
5 P's.
5 P's, but I think
5 P's. There's a few P's.
I do want to say again though, God does everything through Soul Revival Church, but you are absolutely a key foundational member of it, and thank you.
Thank you.
I'll leave it at that. Any final words from you boys?
Just thank you so much, Lou, for coming on and sharing and being like really open, and also just all the things that you do behind the scenes, in front of the scenes, wherever. Like I just, very aware of the awesome things that you do, and very encouraged by it. And a quick aside, like it is the 100th episode, so I'll just quickly say, this is crazy. It's been very fun being on the amount.
I forgot about that.
But also, like, thank you to everyone who's been on.
Yeah.
So we've had, I don't know, probably 80, high 80s
if not
amount
more,
of people, if not 90 people on across the course of, like, across Soul Revival and all our gatherings, and lots of people have been very keen and, or maybe not as keen, and come on anyway and shared their story, which has been
they've persevered through it.
which has been massively encouraging. And the amount of people that come up and chat and say how much they enjoy hearing other people's stories and encouraging things, or people who have only know each other through listening to this and getting to know people that they wouldn't have met at other campuses and stuff. So I think it just take a quick opportunity to say thank you to everyone who's come on. Thank you to you blokes for organising it and having a lot of fun doing it, and thank you to Ek as well for the hard work that he does behind the scenes and
massive.
Doing a lot of the editing. So it's been a ball. Here's to the next 100.
You.
Yeah, that's right. I think like your point about that is that we persevered through it, and I think like a lot of Lou's story has been talking about that. So
we also do everything as a family and as a friendship group.
we do, but I think that but the idea is because we persevere together as a family.
Yeah.
I think that's what's really special, and I think that again came out a lot in Lou's story, is that that you talked about so many different aspects of like the family, of what church means, whether it's your immediate family, extended family, or church family. I think that's really, really special, and how God works through that. It's really cool. Heath?
I want to echo everything that's already been said. With the 100 stuff, thanks to everyone. Thank you, Braden.
Yes, we didn't say thank you to you. Thank you.
I have a unique opportunity to not just be thanking Lou, but thanking my mum. I think it's really cool, and I think so much of the man I am now is because of you, and like as you have told your story more and more throughout that, I was like, that's why I am the way I am. Or I was there in that, and I remember that, and I felt that. So it's been a really lovely opportunity to sit on the podcast with you and hang out. And I love you very much.
Love you too.
This is very nice. Because we started this podcast in experiment.
Totally.
Didn't we? There is the lost episode that Ethan and I did to begin with, just to do something random. Yeah. But then we did one together when it was during COVID lockdowns, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Was it?
I think so. I
think the first lockdown. So thank you again. I'm going to say thank you to Braden and Ethan for encouraging me and us to do it. I think it's been very rewarding for me to hear everyone's stories and how God is just working through everyone in the church. And I think in some sense it's brought a lot of people across our gatherings together. It's funny when people come up to me and go, "Oh, I feel like I've been talking to you this week because they've been listening to the podcast." Okay, that's a bit weird. But I can understand that as well. But I think it's been, thank you to our leadership at church to be able to allow us to do it as well. So final thank yous. Thank you, Braden. Thank you, Ethan. And thank you, of course, to Lou. And thank you to everyone listening.
Yes,
say that
thank
too.
you.
And I sometimes have to explain this, but I don't think I have to do this with you, Lou. We finish with the one way. So let's do that. One way.
One way.